Hey everyone, it's Pastor Jody. Today I want to just get right into it. I am going to talk about 5 ways how Satan speaks to us. I decided to do this because in our Wednesday night groups, a lady asked me, she's like, well, how do you know? How do you know if it's God or if it's your flesh or if it's Satan? And so today I just want to take time. I wrote down 5 ways that how we know Satan speaks to you. And before I even get started, I want to say this, and this is very important, so write this down. God always speaks to us through these things: creation, scripture, the Spirit, other believers, and circumstances. So if God speaks to us through these things, then so does Satan. And so I'm going to tell you how he does this and how we have to be careful. So number 1, we have to be aware of how Satan speaks. So number 1, he speaks by separating creation from God's design. We've seen that in the Garden of Eden. But here's what he will do. Here's what he will do. I'll put this in plain English. He will convince us to worship the things of this world instead of him, our creator. Another thing, we can see this happening in our country. Defending animals but not unborn babies. I mean, come on. Can we get any worse than that? It's like he's separating creation from the design of God, and God is the creator. And so he comes in very slightly and he starts out doing these things, and then before you know it, it's all out of order. Another thing, sex outside of God's design. God created sex. It's part of his creation. And what does the enemy do? He comes and he destroys it. He comes to separate it from the design of God. We have to be careful with that. Romans 1:18 says this: for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth. In unrighteousness, suppress the truth. That's what the enemy does. He suppresses the truth when he separates the creation from God's design. Number 2, he speaks by misrepresenting the word. By twisting it, cutting it, misusing scripture. He'll take one scripture and take it out of context to make you believe something. Number 3, he offers a fake version of godliness, which is, I like to call it compromise. It's a false definition of love. That's what comes in. Well, if you love people, then you would accept these people, and you would do this, and you would do that. And it's a false definition of love. They don't understand the love of God. And so what that happens is it persuades you to accept the cultural morals that's happening right now, their values. You start to accept them. And then you start doing things against God's word because you're like, well, I'm just loving others. The devil is very tricky. Number 4, he speaks through others. Preachers, leaders, by watering down the gospel, only telling you half truth, half false. Some of them, like I said, the main thing is they don't just come out and preach false, but they'll take the scripture way out of context and use it to persuade you of something. Another thing is they'll persuade us to take the easy way or to put yourself first. Paul says this: do not be deceived. Evil company corrupts good habits. And then in verse 34 of that same scripture, he says, awake to righteousness. And do not sin, for some do not have the knowledge of God. So just because they call themselves a leader does not mean that they have the knowledge of God. And lastly, number 5, he will speak through circumstances. And let me tell you, I know that I got some witnesses out there. As soon as something's going wrong in your life or something difficult or just stressful, he will start opening up doors one by one of temptation. Over and over, just different things. We're all tempted by different things, so I don't know what yours is, but it's like the whole world starts opening and you can go in any door you want to. But we need to be aware of all 5 of these that I've spoke of. We need to be aware. 1 Peter 5:8 says, be alert. Ephesians 6 says, wear the full armor of God, testing everything with the sword of truth. And so today I just want you to do that. I want to encourage you to put on your full armor of God and test what people are saying. Test others. Test the circumstances that's going on, the voices that are going on in your head. Is it God or is it Satan? And be careful which one you listen to.